right? We tell our clients all the time, customer traction is your currency. That's all you've
Mhm.
got. Everything else is a conversation. Everything else is a, I hate to say whimsy, but until customers are actually willing to validate this is a problem I'm willing to pay for, you just don't have a leg to stand on. And that's with investors, whether they're angels or VC. That's the kind of proof points they need.
I appreciate
Yeah.
how you're comparing data versus data because so oftentimes people will go out there, do a single study, and believe that is their source of truth. But what you're really suggesting is multiple tests and comparing those tests against themselves. And so then you kind of have your own cipher, so to speak, in your own data set. I
Mhm.
appreciate that a ton. And I know that that's going to be very helpful because a lot of times, it takes attention, it takes resources to run these tests, and executives are concerned at spending anything on any test at all. And so you're basically suggesting you're protecting against wasted spend when you validate against yourself, which then kind of leads me into this part two phase of this, of kind of operationalizing the motion. So you have a lot of your foundation. I appreciate the way you broke those things down. Now let's talk about some of those common go-to-market processes that maybe people are wanting to automate, but they're making mistakes along the way when they're trying to automate maybe too early or maybe the wrong things. What's the best way? Is it going to be a similar data structure where you're comparing things? When do we know what to automate and when to automate those things?
Absolutely. And again, some of this is a science and some of it is gut, right? But here's something I've seen through my entire career, whether working for huge organizations like IBM or SAP. I've worked for a lot of IT services organizations as well. And we're really seeing it right now with the ubiquity almost of AI, right? What people have always wanted to do, whether it was in the early days of ERP, whether it's simple, automating your accounting systems, et cetera, the mistake people make is in automating, and pardon my French here, but in automating the crappy process you have today, right? The process most organizations are using today is the result of of organic growth to try to smooth the rough edges off of a kludgy process, right? I mean, that's just the reality. If you automate that as is, what you get is an even crappier, kludgier process faster, right? So now you're not only are you're basically going backwards faster at a higher cost, right? Because you're all you're doing is putting your worst process on steroids. So
Yeah.
step one is what's the business outcome? What is it we actually want to achieve, and what does the business need in order to grow and scale? Working backwards from the objective is what tells you what the process is. So what are the data? What data do we need to analyze to look at to achieve the outcome we're looking for? Once we understand that, you can begin to build a process. And there are people that, their whole lives are focused on either business process engineering or business process reengineering. Once you optimize the process, now it's ripe for technical automation, for using AI, for there's no
Mhm.
excuse, frankly, in 2025 for not taking advantage of the technology we have. But the mistakes people make are just jumping in, saying, "Hey, let's just supercharge this thing that we're already doing." That frankly nobody can remember why they're doing it that way, right? It's just the way. Hey, this is the way we've always done it. And I honestly, I've made a fortune over the years off of fixing those implementations, right? So
Mhm.
somebody's got a bad process, they spend millions of dollars to automate the bad process. Now, half the room gets fired and somebody shows up and goes, "We got to fix this." There's a tremendous business in that for people. And all you really needed to do was pay attention on the front end, right? I'm from New York City. We say all the time, measure twice, cut once, right? That's the mental, the mindset you have to have before you get into the business of automating and et cetera.